There were times I was lost, dark had fear, couldn't see through the rain. In the end it was clear, hit the fan. I was more than one man who was there to lend a hand. Together we stand, always at my back, my guardian soldier. Team put together, united we conquer. Blessed is he who in the name of charity carry me when I'm weak straight through the valley of darkness. Pitch blackness, the heartless, regardless, fear couldn't part us. Thick and thin, there by my side. At times we collide, but in the end we ride. Thick and thin, there by my side. At times we collide, but in the end we ride. We ride, ride.
Yeah, welcome back, Moto fans. It's a new year and we have got some big plans in the works for 2026, so thanks for tuning in. Before we get into it, a big thank you to our partners for this episode, Fastline Suspension and Southeast Pools, and the January sponsor of our 2026 motocross wall calendars, Wolf Building Compliance. The wall calendars for this year have come up awesome and they're now available to purchase at mentalformoto.com. There's two different designs available, one featuring aspiring professional racers competing nationally in motocross and supercross, while the second design celebrates athletes who compete in the Victorian Motocross Championship. This year we've received some amazing support for the calendars, with Ultimate Toy Haulers coming on board as the title sponsor of our national calendars, and Fastline Suspension getting behind the Vic MX calendars, plus a bunch of monthly sponsors which we'll be giving shout outs to throughout the year as well. So make sure you go give all these guys a follow and show them some love in the 2026 season. As well as providing some motocross eye candy and promoting a bunch of amazing athletes, these calendars also serve a very important function. The sale of the calendars is the backbone of the Mental for Moto Rider Support Program, which is now in its third year. Can't believe it. Through this program, we shine the spotlight on the many often overlooked and underappreciated privateer racers who line up alongside the factory riders on the gate. Without them, the sport wouldn't exist. So if you could log on and order yourself a calendar or two, it would be much appreciated. It will help us out heaps. Plus, you'll automatically go into the draw to win some sweet prizes as well. Now, the industry guest for this episode is none other than the founder of Fastline Suspension, Adam Siemensma. He's been a massive supporter of the show, and I wanted to learn a bit more about him and let the listeners learn a bit more about him as well. So I wrangled him down to the Moto Asylum just before Christmas to record this pod. Hope you guys enjoy. Welcome to the studio, Adam. It's great to have you here.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Yeah, we've been chatting online for a little bit. Obviously, always catch up at the track when we can.
Yeah.
Not that I've been doing much riding in the last sort of 8 or 9 months, but yeah, it's always good to see you at the track. Just to get the ball rolling, tell me a little bit about what you do and what Fastline Suspension's about.
Well, based in Warragul, it's a suspension workshop, so we do everything. I do everything from general servicing, fork seal replacement, shock rebuilds, all the way to setups, revalving, springs, rider-to-bike setups, testing, anything to do with suspension. It's what I do.
Yeah, we sort of were talking off air in the intro or the lead up to the pod. It's kind of considered by a lot of riders as being a bit of voodoo. Like, people don't understand suspension.
Yeah.
I think everyone knows now how important it is. But yeah, tell me a little bit about that and how you bridge that gap between, you know, people not knowing when you're dealing with clientele, getting the right feedback and letting people understand what it's all about.
Well, I think the biggest thing is it's just a fear of the unknown. If you don't know something, you're scared to sort of have a go at it or fiddle with it. There's plenty riders can do with as far as chassis setup, sag, fork height, wheelbase. They can play with their clickers, all that sort of stuff. And what I tell people is the best way to get an understanding of it is just go out and try stuff. Go to a track you're familiar with, do a couple of laps, change some things, write it down, make a note, go out, ride again, make a note of what you felt differently. Some people feel more than others. Some people are super finicky. Some people don't feel anything.
Yep.
It is what it is. There's no right or wrong sort of thing. But as far as like the suspension industry, it is just, it's a fear of the unknown sort of thing. It's been looked at as a black art or a voodoo. And yes, there is obviously skill involved and you need to know what you're doing and all that sort of stuff. But it's not a black art. It's accessible. People can get good results, and it's very important to have the bike set up for the rider.
Yeah. How do you sort of battle the misconception, and I'll call it a misconception because that's what I believe, that like having good performing suspension is only for the elite riders? Because I know from my own experience, I'm not very fast. I'm a vet rider, and I had my suspension set up for the first time probably 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that blew me away was it wasn't just about going faster or having a better handling bike. Like, I was having less moments, I was getting less fatigued, and I actually went for a big period without crashing after I got the suspension set up. And I think that is testament to getting the suspension set up. So how do you sort of bridge that gap between that misconception that it is only for the elite riders? Like, do you find it hard to attract, I guess, everyday riders to get their suspension set up?
Well, it is hard, like you said. There is that misconception where people think, I'm not a good rider, so I don't need it. You realistically, to get the most out of your bike, it should be set for you. Every rider can benefit from having a better handling bike. It's obviously the pro riders need something that can hold up to their speed, but your average rider needs something totally different. And like you mentioned, if it's set up for you, it's safer. You can ride longer. You can have more fun. You're not worried about what the bike's going to do. It's not going to do anything weird. And as far as attracting people and getting past that misconception, it's hard. Like, you can't go out there and ram information down people's throat.
Yep.
All you can do is sort of present yourself and make yourself there, and they can come to you if you need to, and you can explain things. And it is just about making it for the rider.
Yes.
Sort of thing.
So how did you get into it? I mean, every suspension tech that I've ever sort of spoken to didn't start off in suspension.
No.
So tell me a little bit about your background. Like, how did you end up where you are now?
It's a bit of a long story. So, like, I've always ridden and started racing in the 90s, and obviously any racer, they start doing stuff on their own bike, and it sort of snowballs from there, and you're doing more and more work on the bike. And back then, suspension was 100% a black art.
Yeah.
So, like, at the most, you would get new fork seals when they start leaking. So it just sort of progressed from there. You start doing your own fork seals, and like the shock is still, I don't want to touch that. I don't know what's going on there, sort of thing. So, but then you just it's a progression. You get more and more into it. You start servicing your own stuff. Obviously, I'm working on bikes, doing mechanical repairs, engine rebuilds, engine performance, all that sort of stuff as time goes on. And then you just have a go at it. You figure out how to take a shock apart, service it, put it back together, make your mistakes along the way, learn from your mistakes, and then it's just about trying to get as much information from anywhere. So this was pre-YouTube days, so it's not as if you could just go watch a YouTube video. It's reading service manuals. I was a bit of a geek at that. Like, I would read manuals from front to back just because it interested me. Scouring forums, because that was the thing back then. There was no Facebook groups. So, and it's just a progression, and you start changing shims around and seeing what it does and how it responds, and that's sort of where it all started. And then it just goes further and further, and do a couple of courses. I've done a couple of race tech courses. I've done a couple of shock treatment courses, and it's just trying to get as much information from anywhere as possible. And the biggest thing is just testing.
Yeah. But you started off as a performance mechanic, is that?
Well, yeah, like I was obviously like when we were racing, I was doing my own work, and then people start asking me to do stuff for them, and it's like you're doing just general mechanical, and then you start doing performance stuff, and then for a long time I was doing engine performance, had a dyno, all that sort of stuff. Still doing suspension along the side with that, but if you're not in something all the time, your progress doesn't sort of accelerate that much. So if you just sort of pacing it along. So yeah, I was doing mainly it was engine and rebuilds and all that sort of stuff, and then it just sort of progressed into doing more and more suspension, and then I was doing other stuff with quads and the UTVs and that racing. But I've always done the bikes, and then it just a couple of years ago I said, no, I'm just going to do suspension, and then focus purely on that.
Yeah. Have you seen sort of in that time period that you've been working on suspension, the technology change much? Because I think, again, like the suspension work that riders are getting done seems to be a lot more in focus now over the last sort of 4, 5, 6 years. Like, a lot more riders are getting suspension done, I think, than previous before. The technology and the components have changed and probably become a little bit more accessible. But What sort of changes have you noticed since you've been doing suspension to, what is available now to the everyman?
Well, in short, we're pretty spoilt right now. When I first started, it was mid-2000s, like it was right in that transition period before twin chamber forks started coming out. So mid-2000s, you got the current sort of first version of that KYB twin chamber. Showa had their 47mm twin chamber that came out in the late 90s, but it was a bit of an unknown, and even the manufacturers still hadn't refined it as far as how it was working. But prior to that, like the technology that was coming out on production bikes wasn't that good.
Yep.
Obviously, it worked and did what it needed to do, but it had its limitations. So over the time, like I think the biggest step was that mid-2000s when the KYB twin chamber came out. Then WP had their twin chamber, late 2000s, which was still one of the best forks. And then it's sort of been a progression from there. Like it's more so just that the settings have been refined rather than so much of the components. The 47mm Showa sort of went away late 2000s. Then they had a 48, and now they're at the 49. When I say with those numbers, diameter, it's the fork tube diameter sort of thing. So the stuff that we've got now on production bikes is very tunable, very workable, and in reality, it's probably the A-kit stuff from 5, 7, 8 years earlier sort of thing. So it just trickles down to production.
Yep. So with stuff like the cartridge inserts, they're obviously, in my opinion anyway, they're a lot better than the stock stuff that comes out. So why aren't the manufacturers putting this stuff straight into the bikes at the point of sale?
I think, okay, so you've got to look at the Japanese and the Europeans separately, more so like the Austrians. It's a marketing choice. So you've got to remember, like KTM, they own WP. They're not going to sell WP Pro components if they bring out a bike that doesn't need them.
Yes.
So they bring out a bike, let's just say use the Air Fork for example, not terrible, but a lot of room for improvement. So they can still get away with selling it and there's no massive uproar, but then people will buy the cartridges or cone valve forks, things like that, track shocks, to make them better, and then they can grow that WP side of the business. So that's pretty much, it's only my opinion why they do that, but nothing else makes sense why they would do that. Whereas the Japanese, they put stuff on there that just needs personalizing, doesn't need changing, sort of thing.
It's that old adage about like light bulbs. They can manufacture light bulbs that never burn out and will last 10 million hours,
you only
but
sell
they
them
don't.
once.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So you touched on it just before, but you started in quads, is that right?
No, well, I started racing bikes in the 90s.
Yeah.
All through juniors and then early years of the seniors, and got sort of burnt out on it, sort of thing. Like it just got a bit serious, and obviously I was either 18 or 19 by that stage, and you've sort of done it for nearly 10 years, and you're looking for something different. And we were at one of the old 2-day opens, and there was a quad support class. Yep. And I started thinking, this looks pretty cool, sort of thing. So, and then that was a few years before I got my first quad, but it sort of plants that seed in your mind, and you're doing a few more races. I wasn't racing as much by that stage, just because it just wasn't as interested. Then one of the family friends got a quad, and he started racing, and it was at the time when Yarif was just started doing his thumper crosses.
Yes.
There was a quad class there, and so you're seeing it more and more. And then this family friend, he bought a new one, let me ride his old one, so I started doing racing on that one, and it's just sort of snowballed from there. I thought, this is interesting, it's fun. It was a little bit different back then. Quads weren't looked down upon.
Yeah.
So and then I sort of got my own and started racing it pretty seriously, and that's sort of the business took off from then as well, because there was no one knew anything about the quads, so how to work on them and all that sort of stuff. So got a bit of work that way.
And what year was this roughly?
My first race quad was a 2004 model.
Yep.
So that's I think I sort of raced 03 on the borrowed one, and then got my own, and then it sort of snowballed from there, sort of thing.
All right, I want to explore this a little bit, but I apologise because I know nothing about quad racing, but I've watched it and I love watching it. I don't know, there's something about watching quads race that gets me excited. Like, I obviously love two-wheel moto and supercross, but I don't know, there's something very, very cool about the quads. So what attracted you to the quads?
Honestly, it was just something different. And when I look back on it, like it was low, like it was just low pressure sort of thing. Like it was more fun.
Yeah.
I was like racing as a kid. I was too cautious. So I was always worried about getting hurt, all that sort of stuff. So you never really took any major sort of risks. Obviously, every time you get on a bike is a risk, but it was just, there was no pressure. It was more fun sort of thing. But then pretty quickly, the more involved you get in something, the higher the expectations are, and then all that pressure sort of comes back, sort of thing. So, but they're fun to ride on the right track. In some situations, they're not so fun. But yeah, it was just honest. It was something different.
Yeah, and is that because it's a smaller industry, so it's a little bit more like a family?
Yeah, and I think that was a little bit appealing as well because it was very small. It's even smaller now, but like at that time, it had a little bit of potential to grow. So it was small, and a lot of the people were of the same mindset. Everyone was just there for fun, no matter what. But it progresses and stakes get higher and all that sort of stuff. So a little bit of that went away, but I think at the time it was just something that was more fun.
Yeah, and when you say the right track, like we see at the Gippies, they've got the quad class, but they're racing on a track that has fundamentally been shaped by four-stroke two-wheeler bikes. You know, they've got to share the track.
Yep.
Does that impact like the quad racing and how you race the quad, or is it literally the layout of the track and the type of dirt?
Yeah, it's more so the layout. Like from my perspective, and it's been a long time since I've ridden one of those, and the guys these days are a lot better than I ever was. But it's the layout sort of thing. Like tight tracks aren't as fun. Any track you can get good flow on is better, but then it's the same as a bike, I suppose. But as far as track conditions and things like that, it doesn't matter. Like we just ride the same thing. Yeah, sort of thing.
And I've got to ask, because when I watch them, I guess the bit that sort of gets me excited is watching quads jump.
Yep.
For me, like, you need four wheels because you've got to have massive balls to jump one of them. That's what I feel when I watch those guys jump. You know, you've got 4 points of contact.
Yep.
And I feel like there's less of an ability to, you know, once you leave the ground, you're sort of along for the ride. Is that a fair...
To an extent, there's a lot you can do a lot to maneuver it, and you know, like the sketchiest thing is just when you've got uneven kickers on the up ramp.
Yeah.
But if they're somewhat consistent, you can ride around that, and you know so you can weight one side and things like that. Some jumps you just can't hit it as hard as you want to because it would send you into a barrel roll or they kick out sideways. But it's like when you like the good guys can do anything. There's no problems with any of that.
Yeah, it just terrifies me to watch.
Yeah,
I love it. Like I guess that's what. So in terms of setting them up though, like you sort of just said, they can get kicked. You know, if there's uneven kickers, and obviously when you've got two-wheel bikes, a lot of the riders will take the same line, so you'll end up with a hole here, and there may not be a hole next to it, but you've got four wheels, so you know, wheels side by side, so you're going to get a kicker on one side and not the other. How do you set up for that?
As far as like bike setup or
from a suspension guy, like how do you set up and prepare for that?
Well, the biggest thing, like with quad suspension, it's more so you need to get through the bumps, sort of things, and you get through the corners. So you need to be as low as you possibly can before you're dragging too much on the ground or you're bottoming out too much.
Yeah.
As far as setting up for like jump takeoffs, there's nothing you do to make it better or worse. It's just like a bike. Like if your shock rebound's way out, it's not going to jump right, but it's also not going to handle very well anywhere else on the track. So there's a couple of things that like you're more concerned with ride height on a quad.
Yep.
Ride height and rear shock does the most. Front shocks are still important, but the rear is what will make or break a quad. Yeah, it's pretty much just it's making sure that it doesn't do anything. If it doesn't do anything weird anywhere else on the track, it's going to be manageable on those jumps. But if you've got like a fully uneven up ramp, there's only so much you can do.
Yeah. And I guess it's fairly subjective, but are they harder to ride than a two-wheeler, or would you consider a two-wheeler to be...
They're just different. it's like I can't say it wouldn't be fair to say one is harder than the other, because you like a really good bike rider, they're just as skilled and just as talented as a good quad rider.
Yeah.
So it's not one, like physically the quad is probably a little bit harder, but it's different.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not fair to make that comparison to either side. But people that like bike people, if they'll get on a quad, they go, "Oh, this like I'm more worn out." It's because you're not used to it.
Yep.
And a quad guy will get on a bike and they'll say the same thing, just because it's you're riding differently, sort of thing.
I feel like quad racing is still quite a niche sport.
Yeah.
Like, why do you think it's never sort of taken off? Because it's exciting to watch, but you don't see, like we see our Supercross series now, Pro MX, you don't really see a lot of that with quad racing.
Yep.
Like, why hasn't it taken off more?
Well, it goes back a long way. Like when I first got into it in the early 2000s, it was pretty big because it was accessible. It wasn't legal to ride them in the bush, but you could do it and get away with it, and that would get people into the sport. So they would buy a quad knowing that they can use it, but then they would go along and try a race and then get hooked that way. Now there's no entry point. You just like you can't even ride a bike in the bush without your rec reg and you've got a 4-figure fine. So no one is going to, and it's also the cost thing as well, to set up a race quad. It's double the price of a bike.
Yeah.
So no one is going to drop that sort of money to go and see if they like it. That's been the hurdle. It's basically a cost thing that's always sort of kept it where it is.
Is the initial outlay for a quad more expensive as well?
Yeah. Well, I mean, when I was buying mine, I've heard that they're pretty pricey these days, but just to give you an example, like in early 2000s, we could get them, I think they're about $8 or $9 grand on a race plan, and then you've got to spend at least that and a bit more to set them up to do your shocks, your A-arms, your axle, all that sort of stuff. New ones these days, or you can really only buy a new Yamaha, they're already a good width. You can get on and race them, but they're not super competitive. But it is like, if we go back to say 2005 CRF 450, you could go and race it out of the box. And if you spend a couple of grand on it, it's sort of race ready at an amateur level. To do a quad, you need to be 20 to 25 grand back then, sort of thing. So that's where the struggle was. It's just a cost prohibitive thing.
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
Yeah,
definitely. One thing I've noticed when I'm watching the quads race, there seems to be a lot of mechanical issues. Are they running like at a higher level of performance? Like, are they trying to push these motors to get more out of them than a normal bike? Obviously, they're going to be a little bit heavier. There's a lot more wear because you've got a lot more torque on the engine with 4 wheels trying to get, power to the ground. But is that just because of the level of racing that I'm watching, or is that actually something that is accurate?
And I've got to be careful how I say this. There's, like, for example, like it's usually it's a maintenance issue, and also because they're so expensive, people don't update them as much as what you would if it was less expensive. So anything that's older, got more time on it, doesn't have quite as much maintenance, it's going to break down more. And I think that's where the issue is. Like, you look at the fast guys that have new bikes, new equipment, all that sort of stuff, they're not breaking down.
Yep.
That's the thing. It's old bikes. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess nowadays we're kind of in the two-wheel industry, we're kind of spoilt. Like, you go to a track now, and I feel that's something that's changed in the last sort of 5 to 10 years a lot. You don't see a heap of old bikes around anymore.
Well, it's also as well, like, I'd say a lot of that is, there's obviously old bikes still out there, but like 10-year-old 4-stroke, it's not like 20 years ago when you had a 10-year-old 2-stroke.
Yeah, and it was the same, virtually the same.
Yeah, that's the thing as well. And like once a 4-stroke's got time on it, and if it's not maintained, they're just not worth fixing. So they're just not running anymore. They're not out there, sort of thing. Whereas you used to see the older 2-strokes because they could be revived.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you sort of feel, or how do you sort of feel about this? It's kind of nostalgic, but this revival of the 2-stroke. Cowie's going to bring out another one next year. I think it's going to be the first sort of Japanese two-stroke in a while, other than Yamaha. They've obviously had theirs going for a while, but it's been sort of solely the domain of the European bikes in recent years. How do you think this resurgence is going to go?
Are they going to bring it out?
Yeah, well, there.
Don't get me wrong; it would be really cool if they did.
$1 million question.
I think it's great. Any bike out there, anyone that's in the sport doing it, however, is fantastic. I'm a bit nostalgic with that. I like the old two strokes. I like new two strokes. It's all personal preference. If you want a two stroke, go for it. If you don't complain. No. Yeah. I think it, like anything that you can do to get more people at tracks or on bikes is a good thing.
So on that note, like, what are your thoughts on the current state of the industry? We've had a lot of, I guess, a roller coaster over the last few years. You know, the industry was it had plateaued a bit. Then we had COVID, and it seemed like the industry just took off, which was weird because there was nowhere to ride, but bike sales and parts and everything went crazy. And now we're sort of in an economic recession where the industry seems to have slowed down a bit. But I feel like our national series have improved year after year, and that stuff is elevating consistently still, but bike sales seem to be down. So what's your sort of feeling working in the industry right now about the current state of the industry?
Well, it's not bad. It's not great, but it's not bad. I don't like to be negative. People are still riding. People have still got their bikes. There's not as much money getting thrown around as there once was. But I think it was like all that COVID boom, it was inflated. And it was sort of, you couldn't use that as a benchmark sort of thing. So I think if you were to look at the industry 2018, 2019 to now, it's probably just had that slight steady incline.
Yep, you take out those middle years.
Take out that boom. I would say it's in a healthy position. It's not dire. Like there's people going to tracks. There's people going to races. Like you mentioned, the national series they're strong. It's sustainable. I think it's always been the way. Like I mean, the Blue Rock Club on the weekend, they were going to run a 2-dayer, and then now it's just a ride day on the Sunday because they can't get enough people to commit. That's always been the way. Sort of thing. It's hard for the grassroots club to put events on because of the resources they need to do it, and it's hard for people to commit to it, especially this time of year. But overall, I think it's fine. It's healthy. I would love it to be better, as everyone would, but it's just the economic climate we're in at the moment. You've got your peaks and valleys, and it's just the way it is. I
mean, we hear a lot about the difficulties in getting volunteers now to help at clubs. You know, that we need. A lot of events are paying flaggies. And I honestly think that's reflective of the current state of our economy. You know, it's hard to actually survive without a dual income household. And people are working more. I feel like when I look back at when I was a junior and my parents, you know, took me to the races, my mum was, for the most part, like she had part-time jobs in between, but she was a stay-at-home mum. I remember my dad having, you know, he would get home from work and that was it. You know, nowadays I feel like it never turns off. You reckon that's something to do with sort of the difficulty in getting volunteers now, or that they just don't, they're different people, you know, with different values? What do you think is behind that?
I think it's a time thing. People are time poor.
Yeah.
The human values are going to be consistent pretty much the way it is. Obviously, the more people are under pressure with time, the more they're reluctant to sort of give their time to volunteer situations. But it's, like you said, it's like people they're up before it gets light. They don't get home till it gets dark. There's no time for anything else. And everyone is sort of stressed and not thinking about if they can do corner duty on a weekend sort of thing. It's like, where can I squeeze a ride in sort of thing. I don't have time to get my bike done. I've got to try and I'll order these bits online and try to get it going again. And I would say it's purely a time thing.
So how do we get past that? Because I think without getting past it, it's obviously a very big question.
Yeah,
but it impacts us all as riders, as racers, and I think unless we can find a way past it, we're going to see an attrition rate, certainly in clubs, and if not clubs, at least events, places to ride, and events to race at?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it becomes political. Then there's other influences that are causing all those financial pressures, and it's not something I have the answer to.
Yep.
I think if there's anything you can control, it is just trying to manage your time.
Yeah.
But it can be very hard, like because there's financial pressures, and the only way to sort of meet those demands is to sacrifice your time. So I honestly don't know. Sorry.
No. Well, that opens the window then. As a business owner in the motorcycle industry, it's obviously where your passion is and your income is.
Mm-hmm.
Do you find that a challenge to sort of balance work life, leisure and work? And I know we spoke about it, development versus income generating work. How do you sort of manage all that?
I don't know.
Well, you obviously do.
Yeah,
so.
it's whether it's sometimes it's good management, sometimes it's good luck, sometimes it's bowing to the pressure that's at that particular time.
What's the hardest part of that for you?
Juggling the development versus the paying jobs sort of thing. Like I could spend 60 hours a week testing, but I also need to do the work to be able to pay the bills to allow me to go testing, sort of thing, and to have a life. That's the hardest thing, and you're constantly juggling, getting the work done, attracting the work, allowing yourself to have a bit of downtime so that you're still able to do all those other things. Any business owner is going to be in the same position. In my situation, I got into the industry because I was passionate about bikes, and sometimes that passion goes away because it's all inclusive. Like it's all encompassing. You've got the financial pressures that go along with it. You've got the customer demands, and it's like, oh, why am I doing this sort of thing? So you lose a little bit of that passion. But in answer to your question, it's very hard to juggle everything, as you would probably know in your position.
Yes, it's exactly the same. Yeah.
So I don't have any magic answers for it. It's sort of you do what feels right at the time and hope it all works out.
Yeah. When you say testing, like what are you testing? What are you looking for? I think this is something that your average motocross fan sort of doesn't have a lot of awareness of, is the work that goes in behind the scenes. Because for every set of suspension that works well, there's been a lot of time and hours and trial and error that goes into testing. So as a suspension tech, like, are you getting external input and knowledge and information, or are you starting from scratch and trying to find, settings and systems that are unique to you? So what does testing involve for you?
So it could break it down in a couple of areas. Let's just, for example, like a new bike comes out, a new model comes out, you'll get the standard bike. I'm not built to be a test rider for the masses. I can test things and know what get a feeling and try to extrapolate that into like a lighter rider or something like that.
So for the listeners, you're 6'5" and
120 kilos.
Yeah. So not in that window that the manufacturers are looking for.
No, definitely not. So, but for example, like I've got a group of guys that I work with that, and even people that I haven't worked with before, if like they'll have a new bike will come out, and then we'll go and test it standard. First thing is obviously chassis setup, so it's different sags, fork heights, wheelbases, seeing how it responds, because not every model responds the same to each thing. And then you start playing with clickers, and then this is all on the standard stuff, just to sort of get a baseline and work out where its shortcomings are, what its issues are, like whether it's a handling issue, a traction issue, a front end grip issue. And then you look at those areas where there's a problem, and you take it apart and say, okay, well, there's this. This has worked previously to address this issue. Let's go try that. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yep.
If it works, cool. We know how to fix that. And then it's sort of you're refining that process from there, so you get something that works for this particular rider. Then you try and adapt that for different weights and speeds. So you're sort of not trying to make it sound too sort of in depth, but like you'll calculate it. So, for example, if your test rider is 80 kilos, okay, well, this works really good here. Let's modify this and try and get it working for 60. Or whether you've got a clubman or a pro or a trail rider or a professional off-roader. But it's just about like you're trying things and seeing what works and what doesn't. Obviously, the more you try, the more you know. You generally see a pattern of what works and what doesn't. Some stuff works on some chassis, some stuff it doesn't. But a lot of the stuff will, like, you have an idea of what's going to work and what's not. So it is purely just really trial and error as far as testing goes.
Yep.
Once we have a setup, or once we have something that I know works good, you then dyno it. So you've got a baseline to sort of work from, and then stuff that follows on from that, you can compare to that baseline on the dyno. So it is very like nothing beats track testing in reality, but the dyno can weed out sort of you can get your testing batch pretty narrow before you head out there. So you're not just going out and trying stuff that you know is not going to work.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then also the other part of testing is fine tuning for each rider. So you'll do a setup and then we'll head out with the rider and just making sure that it's doing what it needs to do, getting that last 5% out of it, sort of thing. So a couple of mil on the sag, it might be a fork height change, click here or there, just to dial it in for them. So there's two bits of testing. So it's testing with the rider and then testing, getting information based on the bike
with the machine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you're saying that, like, you're testing, we'll start with the bike.
Yep.
For instance, and you're trying to work different parameters to find out what works, what doesn't, especially with the chassis. How much of that ends up being like tweaks to the geometry of the bike and the chassis versus internal work for the suspension?
Good question. So one's not going to work without the other being in the window. So if you don't have your chassis sort of where it needs to be, no amount of suspension changes is really going to overcome that. So you sort of want to have your chassis. Generally, you work on that first. So you get your handling as far like cornering, acceleration, all that sort of stuff, and then you would start trying to work with the suspension. So the amount of time I have people ring up and go, oh, it's doing this, or it's kicking me down the hills, and I can't get it to tip into the corner. What do I change? So what's your sag at? I think it's about 105. Well, we need to know.
Yeah,
sort of thing, and like it doesn't have to be millimeter specific because you can check sag 10 times in a row and you're going to get a slight variation, but you need to know what you were trying to do and where it is, because it may have changed. You've had your rear end apart, put new bearings in, something like that. It's going to be different. You've got a different tyre on there, different profile. It's going to change that slightly. You might have your weight's fluctuated. So you need to make sure that you've got your chassis set up before you can start sort of fiddling too much with your suspension.
Yeah. So then on the rider side of that, and I think this is something that is definitely, it's not, you're not the only guy that does it, but it's quite unique to your business model, and I've seen a lot of it. When you set up suspension, I feel, or when suspension techs set up suspension, I feel like it's kind of normal for them to forget about the bike and the customer. Once the customer walks out the door, they sort of set it up and then they move on to the next thing. One thing I've noticed with you is that you go out to local tracks, you meet up with past customers, you meet up with just riders, and you provide a lot of feedback. You'll look at their bike setup, their suspension. Like, where did that come about? What influenced that? Like, how did you get started on that side of things? And why is that important?
Okay, so it's important because it's part of the after sales service, and it's also important because like every rider is different. So if you come to me and say, I want this setup done for 90 kilos, Clubman MX, okay, cool, done. But your riding style is going to be different to everyone else on the grid in Clubman, sort of thing. So there can be little nuances there where we need to make some little adjustments based on your riding style. So it's important for that as well. But as how it came about is because, like, I mean, I was at the tracks anyway, and it sort of happened organically. Like you're there at the event, and then some people will come up to you with a question, and so you go, I'll come have a look, all that sort of stuff. And then I started realizing that it's important, so you put a little bit more emphasis on it, and you go there with the aim of just trying to help people, whether it's existing customers, get the most out of what they've got, because people's riding style changes too. Like they'll get their suspension done and they'll go from C grade to B grade, they pick up extra speed.
Yep.
And then it's no longer doing what it needs to be doing. So but they may not notice that, but I'll look at it and go, okay, well, that's not quite right. Let's see what we can do about it, sort of thing. So, and it's important to give the customer confidence as well, where they feel they're being heard.
Yeah. Yep. So when you're doing that sort of field testing with the riders after you've done a suspension setup, or even with riders that you've just met at the track and sort of they come to you and get their bikes checked, which is something that you do, like what's the most common mistake that you see riders making with their bike setup?
Oh, there's lots. It's the biggest thing is well, sag.
Yep.
Like no one knows what their sag's at. There's that many different ways you can check sag. You can be sitting, you can be standing, you can be leaning up against the wall. The most important thing is just making sure you're doing it the same every time. Don't worry about how you're doing it, just do the same every time. And don't get caught up, like use your measurement to get yourself at a starting point, but then go off feel. So we're targeting 102 mil, we'll measure 102 mil, go out and ride it, add a little bit of preload, take a little bit of preload off, and just make a note of what it does from there, and then take another measurement and see where you're at. But the biggest thing is trying to go off feel. Then the next biggest issue is rusty linkage and swing arm bearings. All that, like I'll get calls all the time, my shock's seized. No, it'll be bearings. Or you go to a track and you bounce on the bike and they're like, it's just, it doesn't feel right. And you're like, yeah, it's because it's like you push it and it doesn't come back up.
Yep.
There's that, or people will have just bikes that aren't maintained, sort of thing. Like so much slop in all the cable adjustments. Your bars are in a weird position. A lot of people just don't know either. So like, I'll look at all that. That's another reason why I like to go to the track, because people will bring their forks and shock in. I'll do the work. They'll go back, put it back in, and then go to a track, and I can actually see if their linkage is seized, or if people have their bars rolled all the way forward, and like they don't understand that plays just as big of a part as everything else
in the function.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I'm no pro rider, but like I've been riding a long time. I've been around a lot of people that are good riders, and I know when there's a bad riding habit, and I know that I can potentially offer a little bit of advice with that. And I just say, look, just try this. Like, try and get a little bit more forward as you're going through the corner or whatever, because it's not a setup issue. And you've got to be very tactical when you bring this up. But so just try this.
Yeah.
Or go up a gear before you hit that section, because the bike's just too, like, you're revving it too high and it's just wound up and it's just not working properly. So you can, and that's another good thing as well, because you can, little things like that I can suggest, and I know they're going to work. Like I won't get in over my head about trying to coach people. That's not my area. And then when they see that improvement, and like I'm not trying to sell them something to try and fix that, they're like, oh, it just builds that trust, sort of thing.
Yeah, for sure. So do you think you're pretty good at, watching a rider, say on a moto track, and identifying what the bike is doing and where it's working well and where it's not working well? Because obviously different people are really good at that, and some rely on the rider's feedback. Yep. But yeah, like, where's your skill set in that regard?
I can see a lot of things. Like, I'm no god. But
God?
Oh, don't start. I can see things, like you can see things that are blatantly obvious, and because you've been looking at it for so long, I can see things that jump out. And like I mentioned, you can see things with riding styles, but it's important to take the information from everywhere. So you go on the rider feedback and you look at what the bike's doing, and if they line up, you're on the right track. But if the rider says one thing and you can see the bike doing the other, you got to do a little bit of troubleshooting to work out who's telling the fib.
Yep.
Sort of thing. So sometimes riders think they need to tell something when you're testing, and I always tell people, if you can't feel a difference, doesn't matter. Just tell me you don't feel a difference. Don't think you need to make something up.
Yep.
So if the rider says one thing, it's kicking me, or it's too much feedback through the bars, etc., or I can't get it to turn, and I'm looking at it and it's either doing something totally different or it looks okay, then you you got to look in other areas. You can't just focus on one particular area and take that as the only thing you look at. Try to get information from everywhere and make a decision based on all of those things if they line up.
Yeah. Is that sort of like, when a rider will say it's really harsh, but they're already too low in the stroke, and you can see that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Get that a lot, especially with, like you mentioned earlier, the average guy that thinks, I don't need suspension, but like, let's face it, most people that ride in the bush or whatever, they're your 90, 100, 110 kilos.
They're not the 75 kilo
that the bike's set up
Yeah.
for, and you try to, and they go, it's beating me up, it's not comfortable, and I'm like, okay, we need to get some stiffer springs in there, and they go, well, that's going to make it worse. No, it's going to bring it back up to the normal ride height, so you've got a little bit of stroke there to soak up those smaller bumps, because right now you're riding in the mid-stroke, the harsh area, and you're feeling every single bump. So it's important to try and build that trust straight away, so people will just let you do what you need to do, and then they can get the experience at the end and go, okay, well, he actually was, he does know what he's talking about, sort of thing.
Yeah. So really silly question, and I think depending on the listeners' experience levels, they're going to know the answer or not. But why is sag so important? You hear it time and time again. Set your sag up. Set your sag up.
Yeah, it's just the other thing, going back a couple of questions as well. Tyres. People don't check their tyre pressures.
Yep.
They don't test tyre pressures. Every tyre is different where it's going to work the best. And for example, like tyre pressure that you use, I'm going to need something a little bit different because I'm a lot heavier. So that's an tyre condition, or the wrong type of tyre for the conditions. That's a major thing. But why is sag so important? Because it literally controls the way the bike, it's the angle that the bike is on, whether it's approaching the bumps, whether it's accelerating with your swing arm angle, whether it can soak up the bumps while you're trying to accelerate instead of skipping over the top of them. It'll be the attitude of whether you get head shake or whether you can turn or whether it's stable. It's the foundation of the attitude of the bike.
Yeah.
So if you're off, nothing else you do is going to overcome that. And if you're trying to tune elsewhere when your sag is off, you're going down the wrong path. Because as soon as you put your sag where it needs to be, all those other adjustments you've made it's not going to be applicable anymore.
Yeah. I'm going to assume that you enjoy working in the industry. Like, if you could go back and do it all again, though, is there something that you would tell your 12-year-old self? What advice would you have for your 12-year-old self if you could go back and do it all again?
Don't. No. No, look, I can't complain. I've been very lucky to be able to do what I do, and I'm very happy where I am. It's not always easy. No one is getting rich in the motorcycle industry.
Really? No.
So the best way to make $1 million in the bike industry is start with 2.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's fun. It's a passion. It's a good way to live. What I would do different is learn about business sooner. Just learn as much as you can about business, because like running a business, doing the actual job is probably only about 20% of it. If you don't know what you're doing on running the rest of it, you're never going to get anywhere. And that's any business owner will tell you it's a steep learning curve. You make lots of expensive mistakes along the way, and no one gets it right all the time. It's just, learn about how to actually run a business. It's like develop your craft, obviously, but you've got to know
the other side of it.
You've got to know the other side of it. Yeah.
All right. So on that line, for young kids, that want to work in the bike industry, particularly doing something along the lines of what you're doing, whether it's performance work, engine work, mechanical, suspension, like you've had a lot of time in the industry, how would you recommend that they go about getting started?
Well, first of all, I would seriously say really be sure that that's what you want to do. Don't just think I want to do this because I like riding bikes. It's very easy to lose that passion if you get caught up in the wrong thing. It is, especially in this economic climate, is very hard to make a living. So, but if you really, really, really want to do it, you just got to start from the bottom. And the biggest thing is like just network. As any industry, it's networking. That's where you're going to make your progress. Work on your skills. It's Yeah, look, I would probably more so lean towards trying to talk them out of it, going to a different industry sort of thing, and keep the bikes as a passion and as a hobby.
Yeah,
because there's not many, like I've seen a lot over the years. People will, like, they're riding, they're racing, they either get a job or they start a business in the industry, and then within a couple of years they're not riding anymore. They're not really pumped on life. They're okay, but they're not super pumped on life, and they've got no plans on riding anytime soon. So it's hard. I don't want to be negative, but
you see it in every industry, I think.
That's the thing. Yeah, every hobby based industry, you're going to get that. But like on the flip side, if you want it, go for it and go all in and don't give up. Just back yourself and just keep going. Yeah, I don't know. It's sort of, I'm not a life coach, so it's hard to sort of give any sort of solid advice on that. But if you really, really want to do it and you know you want to do it, go for it.
Well, you've got the experience though to sort of back you up. What do you think leads to that burnout? Because I know, talking to you, you've had moments, you know, where you've been burnt out. I think every small business owner has, but especially relative to the fact that you're working in an industry you're passionate about. Like, it should be all, beer and Skittles. But I know myself, it's not always that way. So what causes that burnout for you, or has caused that burnout for you in the past? What's the trap?
You would have to say it's a financial pressure. That's if you take the finances out of it, like, and if you're purely just doing it for results, I don't think anyone would ever have a problem. Like, I know I wouldn't, but it's when you have that financial pressure, and again, it's the constant juggling of, I need this money to keep operating and to live, but I have to push so much harder on this side to be able to meet that obligation. I think that it's, as with anything, it's always the financial pressure that makes anything difficult.
But how would that stop you from riding? And that's what is the ultimate consequence, I think, when people get to that point.
Yeah, so you sort of, like, riding is associated with that negative emotion. And you're like, well, I've just spent, and I've been in that situation many times, I've just spent 5-6 days working super hard around bikes. Last thing I want to do on the last day is go be around more bikes. But if you can remove that negative emotion, then the bike becomes an outlet again, not a problem.
Yeah.
So it's just that the negative thoughts associated with, look, well, I have this pressure because of bikes. I don't want to be around them, sort of thing.
How do you overcome that?
That's the $1 million question.
Yeah, but you obviously have. I mean, you're around.
It's that juggling. It's the work-life balance. Don't put yourself in try to avoid situations where you get pressured. Make sure that you're in a better financial position. Run your business better. All that sort of stuff. There's no magical answer. It's just try to do the best you know how to.
Yeah,
sort of thing. And then it reignites that passion, and you remember why that you're in the industry to start with, or why you like bikes and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and I think something that you said earlier is definitely very relevant, knowing how to run a business.
Yeah.
I think that can certainly stem or prevent you ending up in that place, because I think it's the business side of things that at the end of the day that really is where the impact lies and the toll lies as well.
Yep. It's, know how to run the business, know how to also manage your mental load as well.
Yeah.
Like everyone's probably got to go through burnout before they can recognize it's happening. You've got to have your boundaries. You've got to, like, you can't be replying to messages at 11 o'clock at night. You can't be taking calls on a Sunday afternoon, because you've got to have those boundaries to be able to allow you to recharge, to be able to handle those things. Otherwise, it just consumes you.
Would you do it all again?
That's a really, really good question. I'd have to say probably, yeah. Yep. I'd probably do a few things a little bit different. Learning the business side of things sooner. Not thinking you know everything. You don't know what you don't know, and as you get older, you realise you know less.
Yep.
So I would probably try and,
something I say a lot.
Yeah. Don't think you know it all. Every young person thinks they do. They think they can take on the world. So yeah, I would try to learn more outside of actually doing the work sooner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what is it about it that you love that keeps you coming back?
I'm just I'm a bike geek. Like I'll go in. Perfect example. Yesterday I got a brand new Husky 501 there, brand new, and I'm like, oh, that's a sick bike. I just love bikes.
Yep.
Sort of thing, and it's weird. A lot of people will get it. A lot of people won't. But I just love bikes.
Yep.
That's all it is really.
No. I can relate. I'll be out on track taking photos, and then I'll be locked in an office looking at photos of bikes for 12 hours a day.
Yep.
For days, 3-4 days after, and I love it. It's like, for some people, it's like getting stuck behind a computer for that amount of time. Just, there's nothing worse. But I'm looking at photos of motorbikes.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a bike geek,
Yep.
and I'm looking at the photo side of things. I'm looking at the bike side of things. I'm just like, how friggin' cool is is what that guy's doing,
Yeah, that's like he's got a really good style. He's laid over nice, and look at the roof's coming off there, and that's a sick whip, and it just never gets old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, unreal. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, we're going to explore more of the fun side of riding and the riding side. So, your history as a rider as well.
Yep. Okay.
We hope you're enjoying the show. Here at Mental for Moto, we can only do what we do because of the sponsors who support us. So please stay tuned for a couple of brief ads and make sure you show these legends some love. Are you getting arm pump? Fatiguing after just a few laps? Or feel like you're often fighting against your bike? Today's motorcycles have been designed and built to suit a broad range of riders, conditions and riding styles. This one-size-fits-all approach, however, means that when it comes to your own riding, your bike is often not handling and performing at its very best. Whether you're a weekend warrior or an elite level racer, Fastline suspension will help you unlock your riding potential by ensuring your bike is set up perfectly for your specific needs. And with the right setup, you're guaranteed to go faster, fatigue less, and ultimately have more fun riding your motorcycle. So what are you waiting for? Contact Adam at Fastline Suspension now. Fastline Suspension, set up for maximum performance, precision tuned for you. The warmer months are nearly here, and there's nothing more refreshing after a day at the track when you're sweaty, grimy and exhausted than taking a dip in the pool. Southeast Pools specialise in building high-quality fiberglass and concrete swimming pools across the Peninsula and Gippsland region, and offer a range of designs to suit every lifestyle, yard size and budget. So pick up that phone, give Trav at Southeast Pools a call today, and be ready to take the plunge this summer. At Mental for Moto, our mission is to give the unsung heroes of Aussie motocross a voice. From grassroots racing right through to the biggest events in the country, sharing the stories you won't hear anywhere else. From the privateer chasing the dream, to the junior rider who is pushing for their first win, the mechanic who works late into the night to get the bike ready for race day, to the track builder who turns a pile of dirt into a work of art. This is the beating heart of our sport. We're able to bring these stories every week to thousands of Aussie Moto fans thanks to the generous sponsors who share our vision. If you're interested in the advertising packages that we have available, or just want to show your support, please check out our website, www.mentalformoto.com, and we can tailor a package to suit your needs. Now, let's get on with the show. All right, well, you obviously didn't start out moto life as a mechanic or a suspension tech. So how'd you get into the riding? What age? What sort of influenced you? Was it your parents?
Yeah. So parents got me a little QR50 when I was 4, and then we
Fun bikes.
Yeah. Rode that around. We had some land up at Eildon that used to ride on, just in the bush, and rode around a little bit at home. And then it progressed. I think I had after that.
Did you have brothers and sisters?
No. So just me.
Did your old man ride?
Yeah, he rode. Yep. And also cousins and uncle and all that sort of stuff. So like we'd go up to Eildon for the weekend and just ride around all weekend sort of thing. Just riding around, nothing special. Like they were always old bikes. I remember they used to work on them more than we rode them.
Yeah.
That sort of stuff. Then I had learnt gears on an XR75, DS80, and then I got my first motocross bike, a CR80, 86 model, but that was in early 90s sometime. I got that one. And then, because we lived in Narre Warren at the time, so it was close to the Hallam track, so we'd go down to Hallam on the weekends and watch the races and all that sort of stuff. And I think I just kept pestering, saying, I want to race, I want to do this, I want to do that. And then it snowballs from there. You go to a couple of ride days, and that sort of stuff. And then next thing you know, we're doing the opens, and I was on a 125 by this stage, and so doing all the Hallam races, opens all around Victoria, Vic titles. Never a superstar. Like I was in C grade all the way up until my last year of juniors. I was just too timid, sort of thing, to take the risks, because I broke my knee and ankle within 6 months of going to Hallam for the first time. Don't know what happened, but I was young and ended up breaking that, and I think that was just always in my mind. Like I would never take risks unless I was always timid coming into the first turn, and so I would just take my time and pick the riders off and all that sort of stuff. But I was never one of the fast guys, put it that way.
Yeah.
But had a lot of fun doing it. So and then sort of did that, and then got to seniors and was on a CR250 by this stage, and did a couple of years of that, same sort of thing, just club days. By this stage, Hallam had closed, and we were doing all the Nunawading race days, a few opens here and there, and then it sort of just then transitioned into quads at that point.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. And
so Hallam, like back in the day, you know, we were just talking about it. There's a lot of guys now that are back into moto.
Yep.
Or have kids in moto, so some of them don't ride anymore, but that started off at Hallam. Like, what are some of your memories of Hallam, both of the track and the club? Like, it was such a cool era of motocross.
It was cool, and I mean, you can only look at it through your eyes at the time, and I suppose when you're that age, everything's great.
Yep.
Sort of thing. I mean, and it was good. It was 5 minutes from home. You had somewhere you could literally, we were there Saturday, Sunday, all day, and it was just so much fun. And I just remember, like, I mean, looking back, it probably, like, if you would sort of had that track presented to you right now, you go, oh, this is not so good. Like it was, it was concrete, square edge bumps, dusty, but it didn't care, because as a kid,
sounds awesome.
You're just riding. That's the thing. But yeah, it was just a good time, and you meet a lot of people, and it's the same people every weekend, so you make friends and all that sort of stuff. It was just a fun time.
Yeah,
because that was life as a kid, and even as a teenager. It's just that's life. Like, you're just preparing to go riding next. And sort of like, you don't ride around your life is around riding. Sort of thing.
Yeah. I feel like it was kind of a unique time, especially for like a club that also held races, because the track was open all the time, like every weekend. From memory, they had like a club race once a month.
Yeah.
It was like super, super active, and I feel like that's something that's missing from today's sort of, the industry today, is that clubs operate like that. But at the same time, because I raced predominantly at Hallam, I only did a couple of races at other clubs. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure how it would work today, because, you know, now there's so many tracks, and then you've got Vics and regional races, and, you know, your Westerns and your Northerns and your Gippsland. So, you know, I don't know, maybe I'm just looking back at it through rose-coloured glasses, and there isn't enough riders today. But what was it like in the mid-90s? I was a little bit before your time out there, but what was it like in terms of rider numbers and the level of competition?
I mean, it was always busy. Because there was two clubs at that track. There was the Narry Hallam Club, and they're the ones that just opened it on the weekend. Yep. And then there was the Demeanour Club, and they're the ones they were the MA club that ran the race days.
Demeanour Junior Motocross Club.
Yeah. So, like on the ride days, like it was packed.
Yes.
Yeah, it was always packed. But even the Dandy Club days, I remember them always being busy. Like, it was always lots on the grid. Car park was full, and I remember when they used to have an open, people were parked out on the street.
Yeah,
they were jam packed in like sardines all the way through, and it was a big car park, and then they were parked out on the street just to try and fit everyone in. Yeah, so it was definitely, like, it was very busy, but I think that the area at the time lended itself to that, because it was a sort of a growing area, and pretty much anyone on the southeast side of the city, that was their club until you got out to Gippsland, sort of thing.
I mean, in terms of rider numbers, I still remember, you know, in 91, 92, they used to host the Southeast Victorian Championship there, and we would have nearly 2 full gates that would have to qualify for a final. Like, that is unheard of these days. I think at the Vics the Vics this year at Ballarat, we had I think, more than one qualifying group of the 65C grade, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
But that used to be the norm.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
Yeah, and like when I first went to seniors, C grade 125, there was 3 grids.
That's unreal.
Yeah. Yep. There was always good numbers.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. I think it was, again, like what we were talking about before, people had more time, more disposable income, bikes were cheaper.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
So after that, you went to Nunawading a little bit more often. I never got to see Nunawading. It was one of the tracks as a junior that was always on the list to go to, and for whatever reason, because I grew up in Chirnside Park, which was not too far from there, but it just never happened. What was Nunawading like back in those days?
Not much different to what it is now. It was kind of, it's sort of like an arena cross track sort of thing, but it was good fun. Again, it had that family atmosphere. It wasn't MA back then. So it was...
Did they race back then?
Yeah, it still had, like, it was one club day a month, then a 3-round club champs at the end of the year. And it was always busy. It was a smaller grid. I think they only had like 15 or 20 at the most as on the start line sort of thing. But yeah, I remember it being a lot of fun, always busy, just a good atmosphere. And every now and then you would get, like, your reef would come and race. You would get some fast guys that would just sort of drop in and it would be entertaining and all that sort of stuff.
So did you have riders at that stage that you looked up to?
Like, I was always a fan of Cam Taylor.
Yep.
And I think mainly that was because, like, our local bike shop was Danny on Hondo, which Jeff Taylor, so Cameron was a part of that. Yeah, I mean, I remember going to around to the Nationals, Traralgon, and I remember there was Cam, Michael Byrne, Craig Anderson, they're all lined up, and you're like, oh, wow.
Superstars,
yeah, sort of thing, and you just you're in awe. But I mean, like, I used to just, like, I would just admire anyone that was faster than me. I'd sort of go, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there was a lot of that.
Yeah.
So,
well, we just spoke about it off air. Like, you grew up racing in a similar era to me as juniors, and the tracks were very different. You know, they were hard pack, square edgy. Yep. By the afternoon, it was like not being able to see the rider ahead of you was
breathe.
normal. Or breathe. And you know, our favourite track now is Blue Rock. Like, I definitely relate to you there, and that I think is a throwback to what we grew up. Yep. So, unlike myself, like, I went away from the sport for a while in between. I missed the transition from 2-stroke to 4-stroke, but that would have been right in your sort of senior years.
Yeah, it was sort of like as well. I mean, the Yamaha came out in the 90s, that 400, but I think I didn't ride a proper 4-stroke until my first one was like a YZ426, and we were at Tualeen. It was actually on one of the Nunawading. They had every year they had, I think it was called the Family Day or Family Weekend, the camp.
Yep.
Where all the members would just go, like, they'd hire a track out and you just go and you'd camp at the track and ride all weekend, and you can just ride whatever. So I was riding a bike there. It was a 01 YZ426, and I was just blown away at how easy, like, everything was to do. Like, I was on my 250 at that point, and you got to time the corners right to clear the jumps and all that sort of stuff. And they were pretty quick bikes. Then I got on this 4-stroke, and it was just effortless. Like, it was literally like cheating.
Yeah.
But there was that fear of the unknown. Then it was still like, if you crashed it, you're not going to finish the race. If you tipped over or stalled it, you're not going to finish the race because they were just so hard to start.
Yeah.
So I never really made that 4-stroke transition. Like, when Honda bought out their 450 in 02, I kept saying, I'm going to get one of them, but just one of those things, just it never really eventuated. So I was always a 2-stroke guy. But yeah, you definitely saw a lot of them come in, especially in the small bike class, like your 125. Back then, it's now lights or whatever they call it, which is all. And it was whenever all the Yamaha 250s, it was no competition.
Yep.
And then when Honda bought theirs out in 04, again, it was just no competition.
How did that sort of impact? Obviously, the tracks changed, the way the tracks form up, and I've read a lot about the rider numbers through that era. Obviously, the 4-strokes were more expensive, which was a big impact, and then they started to have a lot more success on the racetrack. What was that like, racing through that sort of era?
It's funny you mention that. What I remember the most is how much the roost hurt.
Yeah.
You did not want to get behind a because the 450s rim with the 250 two-strokes.
Yeah.
And it's like, because you could never get a start, but you'd just die from the roost. Now it's normal. But yeah, tracks were different. Like the tracks cut up more. Like, and I think it's just because they've just got more power, so they're going to chew the track up more.
More power, more torque.
Yeah, yep. Chew the tracks out. There's that period where it was, again, people just didn't know how to look after them. So like they would get these 4 strokes, but maintain them as 2 strokes. Not as vigilant with the air filters or the oil changes, and then halfway through the year they'd blow up or fail, and then they'd get a sour taste. The owners would get a sour taste in their mouth. I had mates that I had a mate that had the 04 Cowie 250 4-stroke, that joint venture with Suzuki.
Yes.
He still says today, worst bike he's ever owned. Like, when it was going, it was good.
Yep.
But they just could not keep it going, and it was just an unknown. Like, just didn't know how to do it.
Yep.
Sort of thing. There was a lot of that. Like, there was a lot of maintenance issues.
And so, did you race through that whole era, sort of like?
Yeah, all the way up until I still did the Nunawading Club days in 2005, I think, before I went to quads full time. But yeah, I was racing the bike all the way up to end of 2004. Yeah.
And when did you actually get into the mechanical side of things then?
Oh, it was during school.
Yep. So have you always been mechanically minded?
Yeah. Yep. Like, I was, as a kid, I was always working on the push bike, and then you're working on, like, change the oil on your 80 and do clutches and eventually do a top end and all that sort of, and it just snowballed from there. And you'd help people out that you race with, and, oh, can you do this for me? Can you do me top end? All that sort of stuff. And it just kept snowballing from there, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I had that same thing, like that fear of the unknown with the 4-strokes. Like, I didn't want to touch them for a long time.
Yeah. Like most people are about suspension.
Yeah. But I remember the first, like, the modern 4-stroke I did, it was a YZ400, but it would have been a couple of years old at this stage. And I had to check the valve clearances. And I think I spent a day doing it.
Just
like,
to be sure.
On the manual, all that sort of stuff. But once you get like, a couple of years go by, and it's second nature.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. And now for me, it's easier to do a 4-stroke than a 2-stroke.
Silly question, but did YouTube sort of change the game in terms of the mechanical stuff?
Possibly. Like, I was right into it long before that sort of came about. I've never really been a YouTube guy. So it probably did. Like, you hear people all the time say, I'll watch a YouTube video, all that sort of stuff. And I get it, but it was never really something that, it was more like, in my era, it was more forums.
Yes.
Sort of thing. While I was learning about things, you'd get information from forums rather than YouTube.
Yeah. Because I think, and I'm going to generalize a little bit here, but I feel like people that are mechanically minded typically are very visual learners. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where, YouTube has really elevated accessibility to information in that sense, rather than reading a manual and looking at pictures and trying to make sense of it all. Yeah, and that's sort of just why I asked the question, because obviously, like all things, with YouTube, you've got to weed out the...
Yeah, for every good bit of information, there's 10 bad bits, but it's been that way the whole time. 10
guys doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Whereas manuals, typically if someone goes to the effort of publishing a manual...
They're going to make it right.
Yeah, they're going to make it right. But, and I mean, that's still something you don't see, though, too much with suspension. I think engine work...
There's lots of YouTube videos on suspension servicing.
Yep.
But I think, like, people that do valving have spent a lot of time teaching themselves to do it, and you can't put it out in a video.
Yes.
It's just something you've got to go through the process. So there's no perfect shim stack.
Yep. It's
not as if you can watch a video and go, okay, I can make this shim stack now. It's whatever the person needs. You've got to learn how to work out those things, and you can't get that from a video.
So as a rider and racer now, I think you're 41, is that right?
Yeah,
yep.
42 next month, yeah.
Happy birthday for next month.
Yeah.
Do you ride, like, does the mechanical side of things still sort of infiltrate your mind when you're riding as well? Or for riding, for you, does it allow you to turn off and just be in the moment?
Probably the biggest thing for me is I know what can go wrong. So it like, for me, the biggest fear is a bike locking up on
That's
an
very
on an
ominous.
up ramp. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I'm like, it's not impossible, and it could happen quite easily. So that's. But while you're riding, you don't really think about that. You just can't. You're too focused on the riding. But I definitely, like, you're aware of noises, and you pick up changes.
But even in terms of setup, like how far can you remove yourself from the work side of things when you're riding for pleasure?
Well, for me, like if I'm riding at someone else's bike, I can pick up all the things I'd want to change pretty quickly.
Yep.
That I'm not comfortable with. Riding mine, like, I try not to overthink it, because you can get to a point where if you're overanalyzing it, and you just spend all your time thinking about that and not enjoying the riding. So I try not to, like, if I'm just going to a track for a ride, I won't think about it. Like I just won't. I'll just enjoy the ride.
Yeah.
But if I'm going to test something, that's a different story. Like, you go, okay, well, I need to actually focus on this, not so much the riding sort of thing. So
what's your riding look like these days?
Like, I try to do as many of the open ride days that the clubs put on, because I feel that's where it's most effective to help the customers. Like, I just like riding. I'll ride anything and everything. If someone wants me to go testing with them, I'll throw the bike in and just have a quick go at the end of the day or whatever, if I feel like it. I'm not a huge race guy. Like, I get in my head, just the pressure, sort of thing.
So you still put a lot of pressure on yourself is it for results, or just to be where you see your potential?
It's probably just more like, I just don't want anything to go wrong.
Yep.
Sort of thing. Don't want to get hurt. And I know that when you're in that racing situation, it's one thing to say, I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to ride over my head.
We've all been there.
As soon as that gate drops, you think you're 16 again, and it's on. So I try to limit the situations that I put myself in with that. But I just like riding. I like going to the ride days. It's the social side of it as well. I just like riding.
So on the bike, like, what does riding do for you? What does it mean for you?
It's just fun. I don't know how else to describe it, and probably everyone that rides feels the same thing. It's just fun. It's just that feeling you get. It's almost like a meditation, because you can't think about anything else. You've got that one focus, and it's just fun.
Yeah.
It's a release.
I get a sense that you do think about the consequences a lot, like just in the last couple of minutes,
Too much, yeah.
Yeah. So have you had a lot of injuries? Like, talk me through that a little bit.
Yeah, when I was younger, like, I broke my knee and ankle, and there was complications with that, and my ankle's actually fused now as a result of that. I've broken wrists. I've got a plate in my arm, plate in my collarbone. A lot of it, or most of the wrists and elbows were from mucking around on push bikes, or when you're not being serious on the bike, that's when stuff goes wrong. The arm and collarbone were racing, and it's just the way it is. Stuff's going to happen.
Yeah. How is your view on, like, the risk factor now, safety equipment, and is it different to when you were sort of coming up through the sport? Did you was that something that you were conscious about?
When I was younger, I was always probably subconsciously aware of it, and I didn't want to get, like, there was that self-preservation that would kick in and not put myself in a situation where I would potentially get injured. Now it's the consequences of that injury. Like, if I can't work, you got your insurance and stuff, but if you can't work, it has big consequences. If you can't work, your customers go elsewhere, all that sort of stuff. So now you're mindful of being careful. But
what about gear-wise, is that sort of something that you focus on?
Absolutely, yeah. Like,
are you a bit of a gear nerd?
To a point. Like, I won't geek out on it, but, like, you've got to have it. The technology these days is pretty mind-blowing, and I'm just been sort of looking into that new that Alpine Stars, the Tech Air,
the inflating one.
Yeah. Thinking that's a bit of a game changer. But my concern with that is people say you get hot, and I've always been a sort of get hot when I ride. So I'm thinking about that one. But always been big on all the gear, like knee braces. I've never given it I've had knee braces since I was 12 years old, and for whatever reason, if I don't have them, I just don't ride.
Yeah.
It's just I can't do it without it. But yeah, it's very important.
That's how I feel about body armor.
Same, yeah. Like you had the old plastic one that go over the top, and I would always wear that. And then you see, because obviously you see the pros and stuff, they don't wear that, and you're like, oh, that looks really good. And then you think, oh, I'm going to stop wearing it, and then you can't. So like the thought of crashing without that on is too scary, and I know a lot of people don't wear it.
It's compulsory now.
I saw that for next year, yeah.
Yeah, or even at the pro level. So this year's Supercross season.
Okay, yep.
They had to wear front and back, and the back had to be from neck to the bottom of your spine.
Okay.
So
yep.
And we saw 2 riders get landed on this year pretty badly, and both of, obviously sustained injuries, but were able to walk away. And there's the question about, it probably had an impact on that, like as in a positive impact. So I think it's pretty important. But like you said, balancing the temperature, the comfort, the flexibility and movement versus the safety, I think has always been something that's been a debate in our sport.
Yeah, it's like, what's your priority? Like for me, the and probably a lot of other grassroots guys, the priority is safety.
Yep.
But whereas the pro guys, they want to be able to do what they need to do.
Perform.
That's their priority.
Yeah.
And if they've got to make a compromise in another area, then to be able to do what they need to do, they'll do it.
Yeah. And it's, I mean, for an amateur guy, like it's always a balance. I know with myself, like I've always been a big body armor guy, but I wear front and back.
Yep.
But I hate shoulders and arms. And
every
time I crash and I hurt my shoulders and arms, I'm like, I need body, I need protection. And if it's been a big one, I'll put something on, but then eventually I'll take it off and go.
It goes away,
until you crash again.
Yep.
So, it's how have you sort of seen the evolution of the safety side of things in the sport since you were a junior?
Well, I suppose the biggest thing is helmet technology.
Massively, yeah.
I think that's been really good. Probably somewhere where one thing I have noticed is I remember just even when you're younger, like the pants were a lot more solid and they had more plastic panels and stuff. Now it's like you're wearing a set of tracksuit pants.
Yep.
But it is what it is. It's just the way it goes. You do feel better while you're wearing it, but
the pants themselves don't really provide maybe burn protection.
Yeah.
But they don't provide as much safety gear or safety inbuilt in the pants as I think they did when in the 90s. So
no, definitely not. Yeah, like if you get hit or something, or someone's bar hits you in the leg or whatever, you would have that panel there. Obviously not as flexible, but it did feel like there was a little bit more protection back then. But it's just the way it goes. But
when I go back now and I look at like those pants and those panels that you say, the Velcroed, the ones that were Velcroed in.
Yeah.
I look at them now and I'm like, it probably wouldn't have done much. Like now you've got stuff that's CE certified and impact resistant. And it's got
abrasions.
And it's got the plastic on like an impact resistant panel as well. Like the technology is definitely improved.
Yeah.
But especially like you said in helmets, it's I've listened to quite a few podcasts and read a lot about the helmet technology, and it's good to see that the sport has evolved on that level, because I think a lot of the previous technology, like when we were growing up, came from the road racing side, and the way that impacts are absorbed and transferred from the crash to the body or the head.
Yeah.
It wasn't relevant from the technology that we were using. And
the testing standards were different too.
Yeah.
From what I understand, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when I started racing BMX, I had my motocross helmet, which was a Moto Star. I don't know if you remember.
I remember them, yep.
They were like an egg-shaped, white, heavy as all buggery. And I crashed racing BMX in that and got whiplash, and that was something that I suffered, migraines from and still do now.
Yeah.
From years. So, it's I don't know, for someone that's sort of raced as a kid through to now, it was something I sort of just wanted to bring up and pick your brain about of how much it's sort of changed in
How
that
much
time.
has changed, yeah. Boots have changed a lot too.
Yes.
I don't know whether it was the way you looked at things back then, but I feel that boots these days, they're more flexible, but do they have the same amount of support or protection as what they used to? Because I remember boots being super rigid. You'd always struggle to change gears and feel the brake pedal, and you had to bed them in. Like you'd wear them around the house for a week or whatever. Whereas these days, you go get a set of boots and you can go ride in them straight away.
Yep.
And you can't help but think, okay, well, am I getting the same sort of protection? But I don't know.
I feel like the technology in boots is way better nowadays. I think the movement is limited in the ways that you don't want it to move, which is, better. And that's a big positive. And the flexibility is only because they're hinged and they're designed and they have more technology to facilitate the movement. Mm-hmm. When you look at the Alpine Stars in particular, like their hinging mechanism, I think is well developed over a long period of time. I mean, I've seen some other boots where people have suffered some pretty significant leg injuries and the hinging looks great, but the quality of it, you see the hinge rip off in a crash and then the foot go the wrong way. And so, I don't know. I think to your point about whether it's better or worse now, I think the high-end stuff is definitely better.
Yeah.
And some of it just looks better.
It might not actually function any better.
Yep. So, as a vet rider now, still racing occasionally.
Yeah, I'll do a club day here and there.
Yeah. So what's your goal from now on moving forwards?
As far as riding?
Yeah, as a rider. A rider and racer.
Just to have fun. There's no aspiration. Like, I'm not interested in trying to win or anything like that. I just want to have fun and be able to go back to work on Monday.
And what's your idea of a fun weekend at the track? Like, what is your ideal track look like?
Probably going to upset some people here, but anything that's not sand. I don't like sand, but
I'm hearing you.
That's just me being precious. So you can hate on that. I don't mind. I'll cop that. Yeah, it's just having a good time, being around good people, and I feel that's pretty easy to do when you're in this industry. Everyone's in it for the same reasons, and it's just having a good day. You feel good. It's a fun track. Yeah, I don't really.
Are you a rut guy? Like, what's your favourite track?
Not really. I've never really been a rut guy. Obviously, growing up on hardpack, ruts weren't so much of a thing. So I'm trying to I watch people that can really ride ruts, and I'm just like, oh wow, how do you do that? I know how to do it. I know all the basics and everything, but I really struggle with ruts. I'm getting better at them. I mean, I can ride a rut, but I'm not a gun at it, sort of thing. I much prefer, like, I love a flat corner or a berm or anything like that, and people are going to roll their eyes, but it's just the way it was. It's what you grew up doing. It was just all it was hardpack sort of thing. So,
and that's what you like now?
I like. At the end of the day, as long as I'm riding, I like anything. Yep. I will go and ride sand as a challenge because I think you need to be challenged in anything you do. I don't necessarily enjoy it, but I enjoy the process, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
Does that help you understand sort of how to set up a bike for sand as well?
It's another reason why I really wanted to be able to get to be able to ride it confidently.
Yep.
So that I can get an idea of what the feeling would be. Like, I mean, I've ridden sand, but I've never been a sand expert sort of thing. So, it's hard to say.
Yeah. I think that's pretty natural, though. I mean, even when I talk to some of the pro guys, especially like the MX3 guys that are sort of younger, they all have their strengths and their weaknesses. Some of them are amazing in sand, and then you see their results really drop off on the hard pack tracks, and some are vice versa. I think once you get to the absolute elite level, they've kind of got to be good at everything.
Yeah.
But I think it's natural for most people to be good in one and not so great.
To have your preference,
yeah.
Because it's what you know, sort of thing. So
for sure. So in terms of Fastline suspension and the business, what's the goal? You're obviously doing most of the work and the business side of things yourself.
Yep.
Is the goal to grow? Is it to stay the same? Are you looking to work more with your everyday rider, or are you looking to service, performance races, high-end stuff? What's the plan?
Well, As far as the ideal customer, it's the ideal customer for me is just anyone that owns a bike.
Yep.
So I'm not I will work with anyone and everyone. I don't really I don't want to. I like keeping that personal touch. I don't really have any aspirations to grow and be this massive company. Like I want to keep it small, where I know I can keep the quality super high. I can give the service that I want to give. It can get tough at times because you're getting pulled in every direction, and you want to be able to give every customer the time that they've bought. So that's the goal, and it's the goal. The goal is to be able to manage that, if that makes sense. So I continue going to the tracks, assisting that way, generating new business that way. I want to be able to just give people what they pay for.
Yep.
I don't want to get to a point where I'm making business decisions based on financial pressures. I want to run the business based on results, not financial pressures, if that makes sense.
And for it to be sustainable.
That's the thing, yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
What about in terms of racing? I think, I've seen a lot of suspension techs over the years start off sort of in a similar boat where they're servicing everyday riders.
Mm-hmm.
And the goal, though, is to always to make it, to that Pro MX level,
yep.
Supercross level. Is that something that you're sort of interested in, or, do you prefer working with your everyday rider?
I would 100% be interested in it, because I've worked with, at the top end of racing with the quads and the buggies, but so
you've been there, yeah.
Yeah, I'm open to everything. The only concern with, obviously, the more you get to that pointy end of racing, the more time it takes up.
Yes.
So it gets difficult to balance that, and I don't want to find myself where I'm in a position where I have to neglect other areas to meet those needs. So I'm not against any of that, but I just want to look at every potential customer equally.
Yep.
That's how I want to look at things. Like if I can do it, I'll do it. It's like getting the result or the end product will never really be a problem, because you can always do that. It's just whether I have the time to devote to it without compromising other areas.
With the rest of the sport and the machinery that we're riding, we went from 2 strokes to 4 strokes to fuel injected. Now we've got electric bikes. I know the development of some hydrogen-powered off-road bikes in the works as well with some of the major Japanese manufacturers. Where do you see the future of suspension going?
That's a tough one, because I think probably where it'll probably go next at a production level will be some sort of dynamic electric adjuster. So it's happening now in the buggies, where they have electronically controlled compression and rebound adjusters based on a gyro in the vehicle, and you can select different modes. So you can have your comfort, your sport, and your race. But I feel at the point end of racing, that becomes too unpredictable.
Yep. And
that I don't think that technology will be there. And then you start thinking, well, if they're not using it at the racing, typically in the bike industry, that it's at the racing that it trickles down. I don't really see them using adaptive suspension in racing because it's too unpredictable. So,
as in the points of failure,
just the predictability of it. And also every time you add something, it's another point of failure. I think potentially what we might see would be maybe like a bottom out button. So maybe if a rider overshoots a jump, they can just push a button on the bars, and it'll give it extra bottoming resistance or something like that.
How would that work in a?
There's
push oil through.
It'll be an electronic, the adjuster will be electronic, and it can just close it off.
Yep.
Sort of thing.
Like a solenoid.
Yeah. So yeah, that's how they do it on the bigger shocks and on the off-road stuff. It's just a solenoid that opens and closes the bleed. But yeah, unless they can, the only reason that they would do it is if they could market it to sell.
Yes.
I don't see them doing it to try and get an advantage, because it's not really needed.
So at the highest end, because this is something I've sort of thought about, and I really, I've only just sort of thought about asking you about it. In Formula One, MotoGP, they've actually got it to the point where they can change the setting remotely depending on where they are on a circuit or on a track. So, they're going down the straight and the suspension characteristic is going to be this. And then they go into the a cornery section and it's going to change to suit that. For something like motocross and supercross, but especially supercross in indoor stadiums where you've got full visibility of the rider and whether the rider is making those adjustments or they're being made remotely by a mechanic, do you see something like, even if we're talking 10 years down the track, that is something that may evolve in our sport?
I don't know. I don't think so, because the big difference is Formula One, MotoGP, the track is the same every lap. The track changes too much for what we're doing. So it's just going to be too many variables.
Yep.
And that's just me saying that now. Things could change. They could come up with technology, but it would open a whole new can of worms about being, we can make changes, but are we making the right changes? And it'll just give the riders more things to complain about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hope it doesn't go that way. I mean, I used to love Formula One, and even MotoGP, I think, has been impacted negatively from some of those technological changes.
Yep.
And especially in our sport, it would drive the gap between your privateers, say, and your factory guys to a level that would be, that you couldn't bridge it, I think.
The access to those resources to be able to use and develop that technology, like it's your privateer is not going to have access to those.
Yeah. In terms of the evolution of bikes in general, like how's your feeling towards electric bikes? Have you worked on suspension for electric bikes? And is that different to, obviously they don't have the engine inertia.
It is a little bit different, but like your principles still apply. So it's not as if they need something totally different. It's just slightly different, and it's more so just to suit the rider. So the ones I've really talking about the Stark, the ones I've done, it's the riders are looking for a similar feeling to what they're getting on their normal bikes. So it's just a matter of giving that. The lack of engine inertia is not as big of a thing. Like it's there and it's something you need to think about, but it's not a major deciding factor. Sag, fork height,
fundamentals,
spring rates. Yeah, the further you get to the pointy end, obviously, the more you need to think about all the little things, but you can get the result by just doing the fundamentals.
Yeah.
As far as my thoughts on them, I think they're great in the right place. I think it's taking everything else out of the equation. I think if you can, I don't think they're going to replace petrol bikes or internal combustion engines anytime soon. They've got their place. People can ride them on their property without worrying about noise. It's good for people because there's less maintenance to certain things. It's just another option. And I think as long as we've got options, that's a positive thing.
In the sense of integration with, the classes at the moment, how do you feel about electric bikes starting to be introduced into, like we're seeing it at World Supercross? Obviously, I think that's a catalyst at the elite level, but being integrated into the combustion engine classes. And do you like that integration, or would you prefer to see them as a separate class?
It's a good question. I haven't really thought about that. I think... I wouldn't want to be there. People have to make those rules.
Oh, for sure. But we can just talgot about it. It's a luxury. Yeah.
Look, I think it would depend on the level of racing. I think at amateur racing, you got to make sure you get the power levels right, because I if you look back when the 4-stroke first came out, putting the 250F 4-stroke in with the 125, they were meant to be equal.
Definitely not.
Clearly weren't, and that, one way or another, had a big impact. So I think you've got to be careful about trying to make it as equal as possible. I think if there was enough numbers, have its own class. If you've got to integrate, you just got to try and have parity, make it fair.
Yeah.
Potentially, there's that issue of I can't hear them, so you don't hear them coming up behind you, but you just adapt.
Yeah, I think that's secondary to, like you said, that parity. And I was really, I'll admit, I was really tentative that they were going to start to dominate. You know, I've said it on the podcast over the last couple of years. That was my concern, was that they would take over like the four strokes kind of did, and we hadn't learnt from the past. But I think if the World Supercross as the example has shown anything, is it kind of didn't play out the way I thought it might. And yes, you can put that down to the level of rider that's on the bike, but they didn't sort of dominate the combustion engines. So
no,
I don't know. I think I'm going to have to rethink my view on the electric bikes. I agree with you. I think if there's enough, they should be a separate class. I don't like them being integrated as a long-term plan.
Yep.
But in the short term, yeah, it's an interesting dynamic, I think.
Well, if you look at the WSX, one way of looking at it is they probably got it right. The fact that it didn't come in and dominate with those lesser tier riders. You could probably argue that those riders finished where they would finish
if they're on petrol bikes.
Yeah, yep. Which means they sort of probably got that parity right, assuming that it was all the way it was meant to be.
Yeah. And I think the integration and that development is still going to be stifled at the moment from the battery technology. So
that's what as you were asking that last question, I was like that too. I think that the electric bike is still probably not at the level where it can be competitive overall.
Certainly not in motocross.
Appealing, or motocross, because you go to a sand track and with an aggressive rider, and it doesn't last
10 minutes, 12 minutes, and it's done.
Yeah. So I think if they got it to where you could do a sand moto and have a quick charge, then that might be a little
swappable battery.
That might be a little bit different without it being stupidly expensive. That could change it a little bit, but I think that's probably still a little bit way off.
Definitely. All right, well, we're coming up to 2 hours.
Oh, wow.
Yep. Before I let you go, was there anything else that you wanted to bring up or anyone you'd like to thank?
I'm very appreciative of all the customers. I'm very appreciative of my wife. She's very supportive. You can't do this on your own. You can't do it without support. As running any business, it's a team.
Yep.
And she does assist with things within the business, so that's really good. But yeah, I'm just grateful to be in this position, to be able to sort of to do what I like doing. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, that's a good way to finish out.
Yeah.
Yep, you're living the dream.
Well,
maybe overstepping a little bit.
It could be worse.
Yeah.
I could be stuck doing a job I don't like doing. So there's always, you can always look at things that could be worse or it could be better. But yeah, I'm happy doing what I'm doing. It's exciting. I want to see where I can take it, and we'll go from there.
You going to have any little apprentices taking on Fastline anytime soon?
Oh, I don't know. Like, again, it's one of those things, like I've always said, if my kids, if they said they wanted to be in the bike industry, I would do everything I could to try and show them another opportunity. But like I said before, if you really want to do it and it's what you're passionate about, do it, but you got to go all in.
Yep.
If you go all in, you'll be successful, and that's with anything. But if you're not all in, it's never going to work.
Words to live by.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Massive thanks, Adam, for coming in the Moto Asylum for a chat today, man.
No
I've
problem.
really enjoyed it. And that brings us to the end of the first episode for 2026. We've got some top-notch guests lined up to come on the pod this year, so make sure you subscribe to Mental for Moto and turn on your notifications so you can keep up to date with future shows. Massive thanks to Adam for coming in to the Moto Asylum to record this pod as well. And to our partners for this episode, Fastline Suspension, Southeast Pools, Wolf Building Compliance, and Ultimate Toy Haulers. And most of all, thanks to you guys for listening. On behalf of Mental for Moto, I've been your host, Pete Wolf. Until next time, see ya.